Hey there. As a quick heads up, we are aware that there's a small problem with Gary's recording in this episode. It's a little bit clippy for behind the scenes. We've recently changed the way we do recording, hopefully ultimately for the better, but there are growing pains. I've done my best to fix it here. It's not terribly pervasive, but it is present. Anyway, we would like to thank some people like Samtic, Ryan Stage, Philip Korn, Ben Stone King, and Lazard. All of these are people who have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us some money. You can be like them and go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and help support this show, the network, etc. I think that's everything. Enjoy the episode.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Children of Morta, which is an action roguelike developed by Dead Mage and published by 11-Bit Studios for the PC, PS4, Xbox, and Switch in 2019.
Yeah. And this episode was executive produced by Julia. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
We appreciate you.
It's a new kind of roguelike. I had never encountered one like this.
Yeah. It has been a heavy year for us for roguelikes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that impacted both of our play
Yes.
of this. We're going to take a little break. This is not like a super long game or anything like that, but it's like it's a weird thing because I'm the person who champions the roguelikes on the network.
Yes.
Probably. And it's this thing where if I get into it, it's the easiest thing in the world. And I just want to, chug the bottle that comes from the elemental plane of water. I just want to drink from the fire hose.
Yeah.
But if something doesn't quite latch on with me the same way, I feel the same way. I end up feeling the same things you do about them generally. And I think the fatigue from this year is kind of what did it. Mm-hmm. So this ends up being a game that should be more my shit than it is. I like it. I think that there's a lot of cool things about it. Mm-hmm. It didn't Monster Train or Darkest Dungeon or Isaac or Gungeon me.
Right.
The way that maybe I would have wanted.
Yeah. And for me, it's just I find a lot to respect in this. They take some swings. There's some mechanical and just kind of let's say for lack of a better word, meta things that make this a particularly difficult one to dive into with my psychology. It's really, really hard to feel like you're making progress, even more so. And this is not a slot machine in a way that other roguelikes we have done before. This is more about the slow, steady progression more than anything. And it just activates this part of me that feels like you're in one of those dreams where your legs don't work.
Yeah. You're climbing up the stairs in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Yeah. And for me, a lot of my bounce off, we're just getting first principles out of the way.
Yeah.
This is silly. It feels like it's been a million years since we recorded, but it's because the weekend was a million years long.
Yes.
But it's getting those first principles out of the way. The actual genre this merges with, the thing that's attached to the roguelike is not my thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that action RPG is not, it's the kind of Gauntlet Diablo style crowd control.
Yes.
Action RPG is not really something I like that much in non-roguelike games either. Mm-hmm. The kind of selling point of this is right in the log line, though, because you do not play a character in this, you play a family. the Bergsons. You are tasked with guarding the land around Mount Morta as this corruption starts seeping into the land. Kind of all-purpose corruption venom monsters are about.
Yeah, you got venoms. Guard your lobsters with your life. I was real happy when I was reading around about this that other people noted at least a conceptual similarity to Legacy of the Wizard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real similar, like, that's the last game where you played as a family. And we're going to talk about this at length a little bit later, but this integrates the idea of family better than I think most games.
Oh, yeah.
Do in terms of being a game about family where it matters both to the play and the narrative. I don't think this can really be beat in that, which is noteworthy.
Yeah.
Like, even if it didn't end up landing as something that I thought was that fun to play, it is really respectable.
It's a weirdly affecting coming of age story because, like, outside of like a couple of characters, not everybody is like a warrior at the beginning of this. And the team coming together and helping each other get up on their feet to get ready to take on this once in a few centuries challenge is strangely affecting. And it's sold by the aesthetics in a neat way. It's
really soft-hearted.
Yeah.
So the play, this is a top-down RPG. You have a run-based structure, so there is, quote-unquote permadeath. You make a meta progression, but you die, and then you cannot continue there. You go back to base and start another run. Each character is a member of this family, and they have different abilities that they can use to fight these enemies. You go through a few floors, you get to the zone's boss, and then you go back.
Yes.
In the basic story mode, you are not trying to get through the entire game on one run, where you kind of accumulate that Katamari of power.
Right.
Like you do in a Gungeon or Isaac. My understanding is there's a mode that does that, but we were playing the story mode primarily because we wanted to learn about this family and get those reveals as they were meted out.
Yeah. There are 3 areas in the game, roughly corresponding to like 3 chapters, and there are different zones inside of it. So roughly like 9 total biomes to go through. It's nice that this is not a start at the beginning and get all the way to the end, because that would be massive. I don't know how you would do that with this.
People do it. It's a weird thing. I guess this is worth putting out on Front Street. I'm pretty crappy at this game.
I'm not very good at this. Like part of my hassle was kind of I couldn't solve survivability. I never really felt like I was able to effectively dodge. I always felt like I was at a healing deficit. I really wished for like pickups that I could deploy.
It's because to me, the way that you deal with that and mitigate that in this game is through kind of crowd controlled Diablo-like tactics.
Yes. Of
kiting and falling back. And I ended up getting the hang of that. The thing that made me feel bad about this was underperforming on bosses and, just fucking up, making mistakes in that tactic. I understood what it was asking of me. I just kind of never quite clicked with it. That kind of defensive move.
I was able to get it for some characters and not for others. Part of the thing that eventually unlocked specifically the melee characters for me was realizing that you could do this entirely unintuitive thing, which is move away from a crowd, but still face them and attack while you're running away, while swiping your swords and stuff. I think you can do that with all but one character. The monk does his little dash when you attack, but once I figured that out,
the mage can't move and fire either.
Yes. Yeah.
But the two of them cannot do it.
Yeah.
But you're always want to be moving away from enemies in this game because they are kind of horde based.
And it's weird because the first character they give you gives you a shield, and a shield implies not that kind of play.
And it's weird because I was reading online and people are like, the shield's very effective. And I just always found staying there blocking just meant my stamina bar would go down and I'd get hit. Yeah.
The thing that worked for me there was you don't have to be pointing at the threat to block. It is just an overall damage reduction that is up for you.
Yeah. You can block and set up. It's interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the individual characters, which is like any roguelike, that's half the episode, basically, as they get revealed, because they're meted out slowly and in a very specific order. But we can talk generally about what the game feels like. Each character has a main attack. You have special attributes or like an attack that's governed by the stamina bar or mana bar, kind of depending on which character you are. Other attacks, other than your main attack, will not only take that bar, but will also have a cooldown. attached to it. And the way that you heal in this game is you find health potions. It's not something that characters come. You don't start out with Estus. You had to find pickups, and it's very Gungeon 1.0 in scarcity of health.
Yeah, it really makes things like luck pretty important. And you end up really coveting those red pickups and cursing the gods when it's a rage bottle instead of a health bottle.
Yeah. They stick around on the floor, which is great. You can go back to them, and they're marked on the map. So you can go back to them. That's very good. And I had runs where the healing was generous. Like it can work out that for you. That's the slot machine part of this.
Yeah.
Is whether you're getting the pickups that you need.
Yeah. There are indirect attributes you can get and pump up that will mitigate damage. This is one of the ways to deal with that. Dodge and armor both end up being really important as you build up your family traits. Like I prioritized getting to those. Dodge is like, okay, a thing that would hit you. The projectile or the weapon did, hit at that price when it can hit. But it says, okay, well, you dodge this, so you don't take any damage from it. And then your armor is like overall damage reduction. That can, some characters build it up, some have it just innate. Certain pickups will pump that, things like that.
Yes. And then you can do a dodge roll, which is called evading in this. Characters get different amounts of kind of dodge nodes, like charges of the dodge roll. I like the way the UI is done with this. It's right on your character.
Yeah.
As a little kind of smiley, like a tiny little Ethan Hawke in the black phone smiley face that's under your character at all times.
It's really smart. Like all of those little things. It's a little bit like the Curse of Monkey Island badge that shows up, because you're always going to want to be looking at your cursor, So like, why would I go down to the bottom? The amount of information that is shown around your character is real. That's a good move on their part.
It's a weird thing to say this as the biggest upside to it, but they're big. Like it feels like they chose readability over aesthetics, and that like it doesn't look bad. It does look artificial and UI though. Yeah. And historically, when I've seen things that are like the number of pips you have as a dodge, it's like a tiny dot.
Yeah.
It's big. You can't not see it.
Yes.
And since you're constantly keeping your eyes locked on your character, it's really good. The UI in this game in general, I think, is really good.
Yeah.
So you have this dodge roll. Different characters are more dodge focused than others, and different characters have different modifiers they can put on their dodge roll.
Yeah.
As you fight, you get these pickups. We mentioned health pickups are the ones that I most wanted, but you also get pickups that increase your rage meter. When this is full, each character has kind of an ultra mode that makes them more effective. These are very funny to me because they make tons of sense when they're like, oh, the archer fires arrows fast. And then the mage turns into a levitating fire elemental that shoots lasers. It kind of clashes with some of the tone of how like grounded and sweet this is, but it's, it's funny. Yeah. This doesn't drain on its own or anything. It's not that kind of rage meter. Where this failed for me is it ran into, it's the rare thing that put me straight in the too good to use syndrome. I was always like, I need to save a full bar of rage for the boss.
It's like,
so I almost never used it.
I need this for emergencies, neglecting that, I could use it now.
Survival
and have it,
was an emergency.
I could use it now and then have it full back up by the time I get in trouble again.
Yep. And again, that's not on the game. That's on me.
Yes.
I kept trying to break myself of that habit, and it was difficult to do.
Yeah. It's maladaptive. You get multiple items, different things you can pick up that will alter your run to varying degrees. There are divine graces. These are like passive power-ups. What's this like in Isaac?
Just a passive item.
Just a passive item. You get divine relics. Like these are special attacks. That'll
like an active item.
Yeah, that'll go on a like a cooldown. It's weird. Split between those are like summons. So like you can sometimes get like a passive option that'll come with you. Sometimes you can get one that you actively summon to help you out for a short amount of time.
Yeah, they tend to be very powerful.
Yeah.
Because they split aggro. We'll talk about how this game has a co-op element to it. And a lot of my, I really wanted to try it co-op. I never got a chance to.
Yeah.
Before we recorded, but I was curious to see how that felt. You also get charms. These are consumables, potions and things. Unlike a lot of roguelikes, some of these are permanent effects. So you get a charm and it's like lower the amount of damage you do, but increase your max health. And you get to choose when to deploy this.
Yeah.
Since it's a potion. The biggest thing to most, the biggest corollary to most roguelikes passive items are runes in this game. And they're very specific in this, is that they're limited power-ups. You get a rune and it modifies one of your character's attacks. This will run out.
Yeah.
This has a little meter on your UI and you'll use all the juice. It's a lot like playing a light gun game in the arcade and getting a shotgun or a rapid fire or a spread gun or something.
Yeah.
They're certainly lost on death, but they're even lost before that if you shoot a lot. They tick down.
Yeah.
There are also shrines which give you a temporary benefit, like a temporary non-active, like passive upgrade.
Yeah. Learning to save these and not just activate them when I first found them was pretty important. Like, don't just use it now, run and see if the next thing that you're going to be dealing with will like benefit from this, and then make your decision.
Which in a weird way for me contributes to a web of unsatisfying kind of pacing to the game, because you are meant to really explore these levels.
Yeah.
And take them slower and more tactically than you might expect, while they are not that interesting to explore.
Yeah.
So I wanted to save my obelisk for when I would need them, but it wasn't that fun just to go through these mazes.
These featureless mazes of hallways and nodes. Yeah. And, maybe there's going to be a special event room possibly that you run into. Want to talk about that, because when we say like, hey, you really want to explore these places, that's not just like to find the treasure rooms or the shops. Because of how scant the pickups are, what you're going to be doing is constantly looking for destructibles, barrels, and whatever counts as a barrel in that biome, because your pickups might possibly be in there as well.
Yes. Yeah. It just kind of it contributes to this pace of play.
Yeah.
That feels a little bit strange to me. And you can get to the point with these shrines where you're saving them for the end, and you save them and you just stumble upon the last room. So they just get wasted. I don't know how to solve that.
Right.
Like, I don't know what the, maybe make these last for a floor.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be overpowered.
Make fewer of them, because like there's several on a floor. They're real generous.
Yeah, even though that is also a random thing. And these have random effects, so like critical chance, XP gain.
Yeah.
The full heal one is very powerful, especially when you're just starting out. And that's the one that makes the most sense to save.
Yeah.
But it's a bummer when you get to the end of a stage and you left an XP gain obelisk. Like, you can bring it into the next stage, but the beginning of the next stage is going to be slower. There's fewer enemies. You're not going to be like in the shit.
Right.
And it's not going to last until you get to the boss.
Yeah. You can make these last longer by upgrading. Go from like 20 seconds up to, I think, like a little bit around a minute, possibly. But I don't know. The way time passes in games is weird. I can't decide if, the saving obelisk problem is a me problem or if that's a game problem. I am not eager to assign blame to the game on that, because that might just fall under the rage problem.
Yeah, it's like Children of Morta text thing.
Yeah,
for me, like, where like a lot of this stuff, I could tell it was thoughtfully designed. It just wasn't. It's honestly just genre thing. I just don't like this kind of gauntlet like action ARPG very much.
Yeah,
so that's not Children of Morta's fault. This is, our show has always been a blend of criticism and just experiential kind of let's playism. Yeah. And I think that this episode is going to, kind of tilt towards that latter. Yeah. Just because, again, I don't blame Children of Morta for this. Like, this clearly works for people. Yeah. It's just, yeah. So your meta progression is tied to a couple of different things. One is your XP gain. So characters level up and they keep those levels. The second one is gold, which you accumulate throughout the run, and it stays. It doesn't disappear on death. You can use this to buy upgrades at your family cottage. Two types, one that kind of directly affects your avatar, and then one that kind of meta effects. So like the thing that makes shrines last longer is one type of upgrade, and the thing that gives you more health or makes you do more damage is another type. Yeah. And very specifically, these apply to the whole family. Yes. So though your individual character will level up, but you can also buy these universal upgrades for everyone.
I think that is a really good system. I love the way that progressing one person will help everybody else. I like the way good.
Or I was going to say, and even on top of that, the way that it works with their skills that do that, that's incredible. Yeah. Like, that's the innovation of this game, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a nice little resonance between play and theme, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A really good one, I think. Let's talk about the chest economy afterwards, because we already kind of transitioned into this. In your skill tree for your characters, they're pretty limited.
Yeah.
Your characters have just a couple different special moves that are outside of items. But the big thing is at certain breakpoints, at a certain level, you get a passive upgrade that happens for everyone.
Yeah.
This is really cool. This both ties into that theme, like the strength of one is the strength of all. These characters are learning from each other. They're supporting one another. It also is the more subtle of the two forms of encouraging you to switch up your characters in this, which I am of mixed feelings about. I admire, but then also some characters I never got a handle on.
Yeah. No.
I didn't want to grind them up. Like that would have been the answer, would have been like, okay, take Kevin to the first level and just have him train for a while to get his passives for everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to play as Kevin. I don't like Kevin.
You can't make me play with Kevin.
He's a little shit. Like I just, he's a little guy. I don't like him. I never figured him out.
Yeah. The way this worked for me was whenever I got to a new area, I would do at least one run with my backbench in order to get a ton of easy XP for them. So like I would die super quick, but you level up faster because you're fighting tougher stuff.
In late game areas.
Yeah.
There's an in-dungeon economy with chests in this and gemstones. These are random drops. You can get family traits that allow you to start with some of them. They're basically keys. They're either used on one to use on a chest that either has money or some consumables in it, or you use them at a shop that will show up in a dungeon, it took me a while to figure out that is the more baller move. To save them for the shop, because you can get actual items.
Yeah, you can make your you can actually make a choice as opposed to rolling the dice on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. This was fine. You have to unlock the shop in the first area, so you're not going to get access to that right away. And there are a couple of other ways you can do. There's like runesmiths that will craft and customize the runes. Then there's like a black market, and I had never determined how the black market worked differently.
Yeah, some of the stuff you won't necessarily run into it. It's random when you get it.
Yeah.
We mentioned how they encourage you to swap up your characters. They do that through having them have those breakpoint family-wide skills. They do it through having them have a varied kind of moveset, so you want to check them out. And then they have a mechanic called corruption fatigue. If you use a character too many times in a row, they get something called corruption fatigue. It lowers their maximum health.
Yeah.
So you need to swap to somebody else. I've mixed feelings about this. Like, this is something that if you're going to set out to play this as a completionist and just level everyone up, like this is no problem.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but for me, as somebody who, typically in these roguelike games, like if I'm trying to get a 20-hour experience out of them and get through them, I pick the character whose playstyle matches mine the best. Yeah. I don't consider all the playstyles equal. Even if they're balanced, they're not equally fun to me.
Yeah.
So what this meant was I had to abandon, my characters who I liked, like Linda, and the mage character, in order to just spend some time in the sword and shield or monk zone, doing worse.
Yeah, pretty much the same. This is, I would prefer the carrot over the stick with this.
Yes.
Just like give me a bonus for using somebody else as opposed to punishing me for kind of leaning for leaning on one person. When we talk about selecting different characters, I think it's super important that you say that it's more about like which character matches your moveset. Like maybe certain characters would do better in different, against different kind of bosses. There are definitely bosses that discourage ranged. There are bosses that discourage melee, but generally you're not like saying, okay, I'm going to this particular biome. I absolutely need Kevin for this. Kevin, here you come.
You're in.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach. Yeah. Teen Wolf. Hit the hoops. That's a big problem I have with the levels of this.
Yeah.
Is that I don't feel like there's enough enemy variety in terms of their moveset.
Yes.
Like there are, it's not just guys who rush you, but it always includes guys who rush you.
Always includes guys who rush you. Always includes archer types who will post up. Yep. Always includes like flying enemies who will kind of be a little bit more like environmental challenges than anything. Yeah.
And the different biomes do have a different palette, and then do have, you know, some signature enemies to them. But in general, it was hard for me to match a character build to what would be the most efficacious to dealing with 1,000 dudes walking at me. I find throughout the entire game, I never found peace with how many enemies this game throws at you.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who generally gets jazzed cutting through a lot of guys.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the Muso games don't do anything for me. I don't find volume that exciting in games. And they have multiple mechanics in this, not only to consistently send tons of guys at you, but there's a backtracking mechanic that I really hate, where enemy corpses will spawn venoms at you. And it just, this is either to, you know, make it exciting to backtrack or to keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
I did not like the tension that created with the fact that the game, to be efficient, they wanted me to explore the whole level.
Yeah.
Those just never worked well together for me.
Yeah. To my sensibility, you end up with something where the game is working against itself in a couple of different ways. That anonymity of space, and to a certain degree, like anonymity of enemies, and no real concern for actual like designed encounters. You know, like we're going to put this combination of enemies in this room, you know, as a possibility for this. It's fine if you lose some of that sense of identity. If there is the slot machine, you know, that motivates me and makes me not care that I'm going around a dungeon level that's a bunch of blocks. But you have the anonymity plus them expecting you to be really thorough and, you know, invest a lot of attention into the actual nature of the space when it's just tunnels. And
it's just a very anonymous.
Yeah.
It's hard to grab onto visually. Like if you put a gun to my head, I could not map a level in this, but I could make one that effectively could be.
Yes.
You know, I couldn't recall one, but you could improvise one. No problem.
Yeah. So it's just kind of half in, half out in a couple of different buckets. And it's like, they're like this is pulling, like it's the pieces are pulling apart for me, or there's a dissonance here that I wish was not present.
The something you made that comparison to Gungeon. I'm not trying to convince you of this, but I want to make, you know, as somebody with my rogue like bona fides, underline the difference. So if people are listening to this and they know Gungeon, Gungeon is a series of rooms connected by hallways. The hallways have no enemies in them. The rooms, therefore, can be designed for approach. So a Gungeon level will have, you know, I don't know, like 100 room layouts it chooses from, but those room layouts will be designed. There's a table here. There's a table here. Here's a funnel. There's a ranged enemy here that has a moat around him. So if you want to get to him, get up close to him or get his treasure, you have to dodge roll over it, etc. This game rooms are only shops and story nodes. Everything is hallways.
Yes.
In this. So you're not, and the way Gungeon deals with, or Gungeon as well, deals with backtracking is they just let you teleport.
Yes.
Like, so you never, enemies don't respawn because you don't have to go back through areas you've already cleared.
Yeah.
It's more methodical. This is something where it's all hallways. So it doesn't have that encounter design element. Very little of this, like combat in this other than the bosses feels designed.
Yeah.
It's just a craggly little hallway with 1,000 venoms coming at you. It's Gauntlet, you know, it's Diablo.
Yeah.
And when you go into a room, that is not a place for combat usually. Like sometimes there's waves, you know, of combat you'll deal with. Sometimes there are special combat rooms, but it feels very different than Gungeon in that respect to me. Far less designed than Isaac. Isaac does the same thing. Like the rooms have an enemy layout, like a room layout and an enemy composition that is authored.
Yes.
This game does not feel like it does that. And I think that's incredibly key to an action roguelike.
Agreed.
At least my enjoyment of one.
Yeah. I don't know how you throw in the Diablo approach, you know, of dealing with swarms of enemies as opposed to anything else into a designed space. I just know that for me and what I like about these games, what I want is not necessarily present. And that gets into like the bummer of exploration as well. You know, we talked pretty recently about the problem of JRPG dungeons again. Something we harp on, but it's definitely true. When I got to Crossroads in this, where, you know, one room, multiple different little craggly hallways that went off of it, I did not feel the the call of exploration, to say it in a cheesy way. I just kind of felt like, fuck, I know the first one that I go to is going to be the way out, and then I'm going to have to go backtrack down all of them. There was no joy in choosing which way I was going to go, because it was kind of going to be the same thing whichever way I went.
That's a really good way to put it. And it's to me, it is a pretty serious flaw. Like, it's something that I really look for in a game. My favorite thing is that joy of exploration. Yeah. And if it's missing, like, it just feels like I am kind of crossing things off a list.
Yeah.
You know, I would get to those branch points, go down one, even if it wasn't the one that was the exit. It's like, well, I got to clear this because there might be something there. There's, in general, in Children of Morta, there's a low density of treats. So on any individual floor, you know, we talk about getting those items, getting those divine relics and things. They are less generous with them than some other games. You know, you play a Gungeon, again, Gungeon has 2 treasures per floor and the chance to drop whole treasures everywhere. This game will usually have, like, it has a treasure room there. Sometimes the extra room will give you a treasure there, but a lot of times, like, you can fail it and fuck it up. And very, very occasionally you can get an actual high value permanent for your run treasure just out in the hallways. But it feels very rare to do that. Like, this game does not have that empowerment kind of feel to it. There are really good treasures you can get, and there are kind of synergies you can get to where they work together in a fun way. They just don't happen that often, so you don't see them very often.
A density problem is a good way to describe it, I think.
Very dense with enemies, not very dense with anything else.
Dense with enemies, not dense with incident.
Yes. You know, there are traps and kind of little, you know, there are traps you trigger and there are traps that trigger on you in the dungeon. These add a little bit of variety. There are also elite enemies. There are summoners. I hate these fucking things. You get a little message as soon as, so the way that the rhythm of this game works, I'm always fighting a crowd of dudes, basically constantly. In trying to make inroads to make progress, you move forward a little bit. If you see a summoner, you'll get a little message that says, maybe you can stop the summoning circle. But I'm still dealing with dudes because I'm constantly being harangued by dozens and dozens of dudes. So I can't stop and focus fire on these guys, which means they always summon their elite dickhead. You know, unleash the elite dickhead, says the coach. And thus we take state. It drove me fucking nuts. I could never counter them. It made me think that this was a co-op thing. Like, we didn't play this in co-op. The game has a lot of stuff that's designed for co-op. There are a lot of skills. There's a character who's basically a co-op character. We didn't play it that way, but it's not just the characters and the skills that are designed for that. It feels like a lot of juggling your attention is designed for multiple characters. If you get to one of those conjuring circles playing co-op, I can imagine saying, hey, go take care of that circle. I'll hold these guys off. You know, or my favorite character in this, Linda, who's the archer. One of her ultimate skills is if she stays still while fighting, her damage goes up. If you're playing single player, you can never do this.
Oh no.
Like, it is always a death sentence. So it just ends up being a worthless skill without somebody to draw aggro. You know, the single player and multiplayer are not really gracefully integrated. In this, which again, if it's meant to be a co-op game, isn't the game's fault. I'm glad they included a single player version, but it did end up making, you know, the skill that I wasted some time on the skill that looked really cool before realizing I could not use this. This will never work.
There's some like tenuous synergies that it can do with other skills that she has. But yeah, there were a couple of things that ended up working that way with different characters. And it's like, oh yeah, I need to make sure I'm designing this character for single.
No problem. So the kind of incident rooms, we talked about treasure rooms, story event rooms give you a little story bit that usually will advance meta progression. You unlock the merchant, you unlock the pet system, which we'll talk about as well. The other ones are kind of games of chance almost that you go through. There's like a mob trap room. There's a memory thing. You have 4 buttons to press and you have to press them in the right order. There's a slot machine, random chance. And then there's Pong of the Gods.
Weird.
Which is you controlling this, Hyperlight Drifter-esque techno Aztec Pong paddle.
Mm-hmm.
With a slight variation on Pong where you want to hit your opponent's paddle.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, I don't know. I didn't hate it when these things came up, and it was cool because it was an extra item.
Uh-huh.
And they're not that hard, but like it wasn't that engaging, I think.
Yeah. I eventually didn't have the patience for them because it wasn't hard enough. Yeah.
But I couldn't pass them up because I needed that item.
I want that item.
Gotta have that item because they're rare.
Yeah.
And that's the success and failure in a roguelike a lot of times is about how much like power up or item you accumulate during a run. This game has avatar strength, passive avatar strength in those family-wide upgrades, but you're still going to live and die based on what you find in a dungeon.
Yeah. Aesthetically, I think the music in this is pretty good. It just some nice earworms in there. It's neat how the music will dynamically change when you go into different rooms. You can tell when you walk in, even before you see the merchant's, entourage, that you're in a shop room, things like that. Pretty good. I think this is a gorgeous game. The sprite work in this is really good, especially the sprite animation.
It reminds me of Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah.
It looks really, really good. There's just so much personality that comes out of these little character sprites for not having very many pixels to them.
Yeah.
They do a really good job. And I actually really like, the story itself, if you just plot out the narrative, is no great shakes. It's basically what if God got upset and went to family court? What if shitty toxic masculine God got upset about a kid and then it all worked out in the end? I don't know. It's like the story itself ended up being a little bit disappointing to me in terms of the plot. What I think actually works really well, though, is that theming of family shit.
Yes.
The characters are all really well sketched. You do run into they're good but noble.
Yeah.
But it's sold with this kind of warmth. A lot of it coming through the narration.
Yeah.
This is one of those narrated games, and the Bastion and Darkest Dungeon, narration mold. That's really good. Just absolutely infinite amounts of heart.
Yes.
That come through in talking about this family. And it's really like, I'm not somebody who has a huge connection to family, but even my icy cold, dead heart got reached by the idea of like rooting for these guys. I love them. Like they're sweethearts. It's a good little cast of characters. I want things to go well for them.
Something that I think sells this really well is weirdly your home base. So it's your menu, right? In between runs, you go back and you have this kind of bird's eye view of the cottage where this entire family lives.
It's a mansion.
It's a mansion.
It's a cottage mansion.
It's a cottage mansion.
Absolute dream, like dream home.
Oh
stuff.
Yeah. You've got your rooms that are functional, right? The forge, the lab where you can do your upgrades and stuff. But like ambiently, you can see characters just kind of doing their thing. And you'll see like little snippets of dialogue of them just kind of like talking to each other. And it's always very charming. In addition to, when you end a run and come back, something will often trigger to where you end up getting a cutscene that advances something about the meta, gets you closer to unlocking a character. You get word of one of them, coming on their way to help, stuff like that. You can also, as you're going around, just find these little nodes to see individual scenes.
Yes.
And all of that, kind of incident that is non-mandatory, but just kind of there in the margins, combined with the super expressive art and animation, really go a long way to making this whole cast of characters pretty endearing.
Yeah, it's fairly impeccable on that level. You can also, as you're going through these areas, find souvenirs of your adventures that end up being placed in the home. And it's really like lived in and homey on every level. Like the theme, the lighting.
Yep.
It's just very calming and stuff. Like it is a really great expression of the platonic ideal of a home.
Yeah.
In a game. Weird thing to say, but it's got huge, like big time Majula.
Yeah.
Just like very like great hub world. Great cozy hub zone.
Yeah.
the story is kind of revealed in these cutscenes, as you mentioned. They kind of come, these are triggered by advancement or deaths. And they're kind of just trickled out. So it's kind of less important exactly when they happen.
Yeah.
It's more that you just kind of get them, as you play. And these are meted out well.
Yes.
The pace in which these happen, I think, is pretty good. It is quicker pace than Hades.
Yeah.
If you go to Hades, you talk to everybody. When you get back and give them all a wine to get more dialogue, like that takes a lot longer than this. That to me felt like a pacing killer. This is a lot snappier.
Yes.
Than that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Let's talk about development. So this is a Kickstarter game. Dead Mage launched the Kickstarter in January of 2015. They had already started working on a little bit of development. It was a small team, started at 5, grew to 18 over the course of the project. And it, pretty clear their goal was to try and make, mix a narrative game with a roguelike structure. Just like, hey, can we make that happen?
Yeah. Initially, they wanted to do this, and they stumbled upon the family idea partway through development. It was not always part of the game.
Yeah.
Making all the characters part of the same family. There is a postmortem online that talks about how their challenges were avoiding this ludonarrative dissonance with the setup that they had and making a good user experience without anybody on the team who specialized in that.
Yeah.
And I think the user experience, in terms of UI and everything is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The game got lots of updates after release, including this late edition of online co-op. Again, neither of us fucked with that. It might make a big difference. Hopefully it does. And then there are DLCs that came out. Paws and Claws after does this passive upgrade mechanic through animals. You get a little pet shack where all the animals live together in peace, creating bold new breakfast. Like there's sausage inside the egg when you open it, that kind of thing. You find pet food, either regular or fancy, and then you give these pets, it fills up their meter. Depending on how high their love meter is, you get a passive upgrade, and the love meter will slowly decline as you go on runs.
Yeah.
So you want to keep these guys topped off, but it's just another thing you get to choose.
Yeah.
For a passive bonus. That's somewhere between, lasts for multiple runs, but is not permanent.
Yes.
It's somewhere between a rune and a blacksmith upgrade.
Yeah. It's basically just free meta progression as long as you can manage it. And, this folds the treats into the pickup economy, which is not necessarily a, huge problem. It's like a medium value pickup.
I have no idea if it affected the pickup economy because I didn't play before the DLC. So maybe health pickups were more common before this got a spot on the slot machine.
Yeah.
So somebody who had played it from launch would know that. I did not. It didn't end up bugging me. But who knows? Who knows if those low value pet foods I was finding would have been a critical healing potion.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Don't know. The other DLC is called Ancient Spirits. This is mostly challenge runs. There's there's challenge mode stuff in this game, and this introduced a new character. But I admit to not fucking with that.
This is a pawn. Is the character introduced?
I used her quite a bit. She's in the main story.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. She's the one.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the character got added with this. The non-family member.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there you go, Cole.
Hey,
you did.
I just didn't do any of the challenge runs because it's not in me.
Oh yeah, I don't character challenge run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do that on roguelikes I love. In a general sense.
Yeah.
So
this studio, Dead Mage, they're currently working on an RPG called Tale of the Ronin. Can't find any gameplay footage, but if the art and animation that I'm seeing is the actual style, it will at least be extremely striking visually. It's like a real cool water brush calligraphy style. Yeah.
There's it's on Steam, to be wish listed, and there are things in the trailer that may be gameplay, and there are things that definitely are that are kind of menu based visual novel. Stuff. It looks like a turn-based side-scrolling combat thing where you're choosing moves from a menu. It's interesting looking.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to keep that heart.
Yeah.
Focus on the human side of the samurai and the role of their personal emotions and their adventures in combat.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? This didn't make me think I will play anything this dev makes.
Yeah.
You know, I think this game is neat. I had fun with it, like a degree of fun, but like I said, it didn't catch me.
Yeah. And just this is one, it didn't suffer for deadline, but it definitely suffered for being in a year in a corridor with a bunch of games kind of similar to it. So I'll cop to that.
We even space it out for this. When Julia reached out to us about doing this, we were like, hey, do you mind if we do this a little bit later in the year? So we can give ourselves some space between roguelikes. And it's it's still just, I think for me, it's more just the game, the genre, not the meta, none of the roguelike elements, the actual genre of what I'm doing, feet on the floor, not being my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's do. We get an opening cutscene and a tutorial where we kind of get the inciting incident. We get a view of this mountain beyond a distant forest and kind of this darkness overtaking everything. And this is a nightmare that kind of the family matriarch, Grandma Margaret, is having.
Yeah. One thing I really like about this game is even the family members who don't go out on adventures are very key.
Yes.
So Grandma Margaret is not like a tertiary character.
No.
She's always held up as very important, even though you don't actually ever play as her. She has this nightmare. She wakes up and rushes out to this huge tree that's by the cabin to visit the shrine of Rhea Dana at the base of it. This is one of the gods or demigods or something in the mythology of this.
Yeah. Rhea is the earth. Rhea Dana is like the daughter of the earth, like a Christ-like kind of deal.
Yeah. Some kind of spirit.
Yes.
Spirit god thing. The monument won't respond to her though. So she walks to go look at the mountain, wondering if it's beginning again.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
It's happening again.
Yeah. One of those things, like every 100 years, you got to put away the evil.
Yeah. Yeah. And her son, John, kind of the family patriarch, he's sent off to investigate this, and we get a very sweet scene of everybody giving him something for the journey, like a little life gem. Here's your shield, and it gets to his the youngest daughter Lucy, and she gives him a hug, and it's like, and she gave him a reason to come back, and I was like, oh, that's sweet.
It's very sweet. This is our tutorial. We go through the forest and we fight venoms that show up. John is the first character. It makes sense for him to be the first one.
Yeah.
You learn about it in some ways. He's the shield character, sword and shield. He has a special move called Heaven's Strike, which calls down an AoE. So it's when you're being overwhelmed, you do this. His shield attacks in an arc. One of the first things that you want to learn about this game is that attacks will hit multiple enemies.
Yes.
So the actual arc of your attack is very important. And then he has a shield, which he can put up, but it will drain his stamina. Enemies walk up to you and hit you.
Yep.
In this, there's no, when you're blocking, there's no like deflect.
Right.
An enemy is not pushed away from you or anything. They just stand there and keep doing it.
Yeah.
So it ends up feeling a little bit like closing a door on like a flood. And like as soon as I open the door, the door only holds so long, but if I open it, the flood's coming in.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to get hit.
It's tactilely strange. That there is no kind of recoil. You can upgrade, like one of the first abilities that is there for you, imbues the shield with thorns, so that anybody that hits you will take some splashback damage on themselves, and you can really crank that up, but without anything that gives you a little bit of extra like breathing room on it. It doesn't feel like a shield, like a piece of metal you would hold up. It feels more like a force field.
Yeah. Yep. And that thorn build works. Like you can eventually make that good. He has a rage ability. It makes him invulnerable and covers him with thorns. So enemies all take damage, whether you're blocking or not. As you're moving through, you get your first treasure room as you're walking through, and we run into some more corruption beings. These venoms are performing a ritual on these animals using the tree stump as an altar. This is the shrine that we were looking for in the first place, but it's been felled. The tree has been cut down.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
No good.
Tree of life.
Yep.
So we got to take that back, and we have to confirm that, yes, at this big family meeting at the dining room table, I like that quite a bit. Grandma Margaret says, like, yes, this is the corruption. It has indeed come for us. It is flowing down from Mount Morta. So we have to go to the top and, figure out a way to destroy this, figure out a way to stop it.
Yes. It's worth noting that all of the there isn't really dialogue in this game. It's all narrated. The narrator saying like Grandma told them that this was the corruption.
Yes.
Or it was as Grandma feared. It was the corruption. Mm-hmm. We don't get any characters' voices in this. There's always this distance that lends itself to kind of the fairy tale feeling of it. So we had to get to the top of this mountain. To do that, we need to use the sanctuary that's beneath the cabin, Grandma's Bat Cave down here. Full of these gigantic pyramid teleporter crystals that go around to different parts of the mountain. It's very Venture Brothers. I don't think there's anything that implies that the rest of the family didn't know this existed. But the idea that they didn't know it existed is very funny to me.
That was the read.
Oh, shit.
That was the read that I got from that too. Because she just goes to the fireplace and pulls a candelabra. It's like
gets a bust of Commissioner Gordon or whatever, and heads on down. And it's like, why the fuck do I have to share a room with Kevin? They've got so much space here.
Oh, that is so good. But yeah, we need to activate the central stone to take us up to the mountain. And to do that, kind of the MacGuffins that we're doing is we have to go to these 3 different regions and free these spirits, which will not only help power the central stone, but also kind of reveal some story, reveal what's kind of going on with these gods.
Yeah. Starting off with what I think is a dumb sounding name, the Kale Depot.
Kale Depot Caves.
Yeah, Kel Depot. I think that's a bad name.
Yeah.
Maybe that means something cool and meaningful. I just think it sounds bad on the tongue.
But it also has the word dip in it.
Yeah, it's real silly. Fred Meyer, the local department store chain, their brand of value clothing is dip. So they're just like, wear dip, and it'll just show a shirt.
Are they trying to make a play on drip?
I don't know what they're trying to do. It sounds like an insult.
It sounds like it's unclear.
It sounds like a way to get your kids made fun of. If you just send them to school head to toe in dip. I'm like, hey, dip kid. It just gives, you're already wearing the store brand clothes. And as a kid who wore a lot of store brand clothes.
Yeah.
I know that kids can be real mean about that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But these ones happen to say an insult on them.
Oh, French Onion Freddy.
Yeah. The first biome of the Kale Depot Caves is the Silk Caverns, and we're unlock our second character when we get this, Linda.
Yeah.
The eldest daughter of John.
Yes.
For the whole time, initially I thought this was his wife. Just me being, so I kept calling her Arrow Wife, and big shout out to people in the Slack who had the grace not to correct me.
Oh yeah.
This is Arrow daughter.
Yeah. His, I saw her as a wife too, but then who's that pregnant lady? And why is he holding her baby?
This is like a mobile game hell thing. Like raise, destroy, with the baby.
God, that fucking Twitter.
Get furious, accept. The weirdest ones are the ones with the little cartoon ladies who are like real hairy and stinky.
You mean
don't brush their teeth and stuff?
Hey, Gary, you mean all of them?
It's a lot of them. There's a lot of ones about royalty raising orphans.
Yeah,
is the other genre, but there are a lot of them. It's like, should you shave your legs or take a bath?
Porque no los dos.
Yes, nope. There's only time to do one, and only one of them the boyfriend likes. So
yeah, that I can only handle so much of that account. My entire career on Twitter is just touching stoves for as long as I can. So.
That is 100% true of your career on Twitter, and I'm surprised to hear that this account is what does it.
Yep. Oh my God!
Everybody's got a stove they like to touch.
Oh man. So she's your archer. It's nice that they give you melee, and gives you range at the start. It's not just you and me who favor her. Like when I looked up videos to do refresh, to refresh myself, it was either people using Linda to get through dungeons, or if it was somebody trying to take on bosses, they would be using Kevin because of his DPS. Okay.
Yeah. This just, so the play style here, Linda is an archer. You can fire arrows while moving. Doing so drains your stamina, however. So eventually you get to the point where you can't, and then you just have to run and make distance. Has a out of the box special, or you can unlock her first special attack, which is an AoE at a distance. This character, there's a contradiction, right? So this is the character I was most effective with.
Yeah.
It's also the character in which is the lowest risk.
Yeah.
You're always keeping distance from your enemies. So it's a really slow, methodical play style, which I usually really like, but I eventually got bored of in this game. So I ended up having that choice that comes up in games sometimes where the most efficacious thing is boring.
Yeah.
Think traps and dead cells. That's how Linda felt to me.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to progress, I wanted to play as Linda, but you're not like doing, you're shooting until you can't, you run away, you shoot until you can't, you run away, repeat.
Yeah.
There's not very much, variety to her. As she gets more of her moves, she's also a bard. You can do more things. She has an AoE that stuns characters around her, which is very useful, given, that she will run out of stamina. Things will get close. She can stun them and walk away while her stamina increases. She's very coherent in terms of a build. It's not really her fault. It's the fact that everything is always full of venoms. Yeah,
it's always full of venoms. The majority of them will just run directly at you. Not all of them. But plenty of them.
But most of them. And here's a thing that is a pet peeve of mine in games. This sounds like I hate this fucking game. I think it's like a C+. It's all right.
Yeah.
I think if an enemy is like a bat, it should take one hit from anything.
You know what? Yeah. That was a thing. I didn't make a note of this, but now that you say it, enemies do end up getting kind of damage spongy.
And your damage increases that you do through your passive upgrades are really marginal.
Yeah.
You pay eventually, the cost for them increases. You're paying just a ridiculous amount of gold in this game, which is called morv. And you're spending just hand over fist spending morv to go from 21 damage to 24 damage. The way it works is every character has the same damage, but they have multipliers. That affect them, and almost all of them are negative multipliers. Only the gigantic melee beast guy has a positive multiplier, and then I think John has a flat. It's just ×1, so like what you see is what you get. But with Linda and with all the other characters, you change your damage from 21.5 to 24, but you're only doing 80% of that. Which means bat enemies, rat enemies, like things that the semiotics of games teach me should go down easy, all take 2 hits throughout the game. Like they scale with me scaling my damage. I never one shot basic monsters in this. Basic attack damage is something that like does not really just move very well in the actual like meta progression, permanently, but it is something that like the majority of my pickups ended up prizing that, especially, like that was where you got the most boost out of it. And I also think that they're really, for certain characters, especially, they're really counting on crits being a huge part of that. Yes.
But even that is, just every arrow is a slot machine, to decide if you kill this, bat in one shot or two.
A tiny spider. There's just a little bit of a bummer to me. It's very contrary to how roguelikes usually work, because damage is king in this genre. Like you always want to prioritize damage. I was spending all the more if I could on damage, and I never really felt like I was making a very big difference. And money might have been spent better on movement speed or max health.
Movement speed ended up being the one that I never really regretted.
If she goes into her rage zone, she increases her attack speed. It's really good. And this can really put a big dent in bosses. This first area is just our gentle introduction zone. It is a poisonous spider cave. There are pilgrims that we find that have been captured by the spiders who revive as these walking corpses when you backtrack. I talked about those. I think that happens too often in this game. I don't like being punished for backtracking in this game about exploration. It doesn't feel like it keeps it fresh. It feels like a punishment.
But you get those basic corruption enemies. Those are going to get functionality added to them as the game goes on. And kind of the ranged enemy for this biome is these spiders, which will shoot web at you.
Yeah. They're environmental hazards, these little mushrooms that either pull you in into these spike traps around them, or mushrooms that if you hit them, they explode. Those can be used against the enemy. That is where you get a little bit of not encounter design, but kind of like tactical expression.
Yeah.
In these, like you can, if you find one of those in a choke point, you can draw enemies through them, hit that and hit them all at once. Like it's not like it's entirely gauntlet. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah. I ended up, really liking those when I saw them, specifically because it was a different tactic to use.
The other tactic that you end up using a lot, which is degenerate play, again, traps and dead cells, is enemies can't go into rooms.
Yes.
So if you find a room, there'll be a glowing door that enemies can't go through, but you can shoot through or attack through. I abused this the whole game. I don't know. It felt like I was meant to. Yeah. I would get such big crowds that I really felt like this was what I should be doing. But it was boring.
Yes. Same. Yeah. And again, looking at people play, that is also something that is used because you don't want to take damage. Even if you could deal with them, you don't want to take any hits because you
don't want to take the risk. You need to save that health for the boss, and health pickups are hard to come by. Yeah.
Around here is where we start being able to unlock our first extra character, the loathed Kevin. I don't actually dislike this character very much.
Kevin. I've been talking shit about him because I don't. This is the one I never grokked.
Yeah.
I was never successful with this guy.
I was never successful, but I can definitely see how his stuff works together. I just I never got good with high risk play, and that's what he is. So Kevin is a young boy. He is, I think, the second youngest kid, and he really wants to help. He wants to join in the fight, and so the Uncle Ben, the guy who's been doing your forging, he figures, okay, well, let's make you some knives, and you can start training to use this. Stop trying to be so impulsive. And then over the course of a couple of different cutscenes, he runs off to kind of do his own little trial, and then comes back. When he's back and safe, they realize, okay, it's probably good for us to send our youngest boy into the spider dungeon.
Yeah, our youngest boy can handle the spiders. There's a thing that happens, I can't remember what it's called in game, but your characters revive when they die. And there's a little note that implies that it's painful.
Yeah.
So there's really no risk to sending your kids into the spider dungeon in this, other than that they don't like it.
Other than trauma.
Trauma is the only risk. You eventually have to go to Rye therapy, or what's the name of the gods, the prefix for the gods, or whatever.
Rhea therapy.
Rhea therapy. You have to go down to the place that does Rhea therapy and aromatherapy and acupuncture in order to fix your kids. He's little and fast, low health. His whole idea is that he does more damage as he does more attacks. So you hit multiple times really quickly to up your damage.
Yeah.
He has a lot of dodges. He has 3 dodge charges, and he eventually can get stealth. Yeah. He's out for stealth and does a lot of damage out of stealth.
Yeah. And instead of having stamina, you have that frenzy. It builds up your attack speed as well. So it's not like you're doing a whole bunch of damaging attacks. This to me seems like opportunities for critical rolls to a degree.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is where all of the damage that I got with him kind of ultimately came from. That's what makes him that plus his rage. Which increases his frenzy, takes you beyond even the fastest frenzy speed. That and the kind of the stealth assassinate kind of makes this, when I was reading about it, the boss killer. I never, managed to arrive at the boss with a lot in the tank left over to do that with Kevin, but I can see how it works.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a complete sentence ludically.
Yeah,
it just didn't work with my playstyle. As you're going through this biome, you also do a couple of side quests. The first one is finding a wolf cub, and you find the herbs that are necessary to heal the wolf cub. This gives you the family dog, Riker, a very good dog, who will give you a health potion right before the boss. Health potions just do a percentage of health. They're not full heals or anything, but still very useful. And it allows you to save some money, because later, once you unlock the shop, generally you'll go to a shop before the boss, and not having to spend any money to get back to full health is good.
Yes. Yeah. You also unlock the shopkeep. Different people like that are caught in these cages, and you have to do like a little arena fight to clear the way for them.
Yes.
The boss of this first area is the Spider King. I like these little introductions with the narrator saying like, "Oh, all 8 of its eyes looked on something that would, willingly walk into its own tomb."
Yeah, really, really evocative stuff. And I think really the high point of this game mechanically is the boss fights.
Yes.
I think the boss fights are really good. Really learnable, very patterns. Like it has that very patterns. It has that Dark Souls thing where it's like, it was my fault. Like I got too greedy.
Yeah. My only concern with them is damage sponge kind of stuff. Some of the fights outstayed their welcome to a certain degree.
Yeah. That's true. And then the other thing for me is that too many bosses relied on ads.
Yes.
Bring in minions.
That feels absolutely like a co-op consideration to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would have been fine to me turned off. Like I just wanted to learn the patterns. But in general, I think that the bosses are really well designed for overhead ARPG bosses.
Yeah.
So he attacks, you want to stay out of reach. He shoots these webs down. He has these ground smashes where he jumps them. You want to stay out of reach of those, and then summons little minion spiders.
Yeah.
Which have ranged attacks. So you want to take them out as well.
So it's about kind of playing chicken with them. Like, okay, he's going to smash over here. I don't want to be in the, place where he smashes down, but I need to close the distance and get a couple of hits in before he pulls back up. Yeah.
Once you do this, you get the Manuscript of Precision, which allows Uncle Ben to upgrade your weapons.
Yes.
And stuff. Or a specific allows him to upgrade your crit chance on your weapons.
Yeah, it gives you like a new category of upgrade to buy. I eventually stopped making note of which one you get where because I had no idea that was fixed. Like what order you got them in, but like that's how you get those upgrades. For the forge, for the lab, you will find Grandma examining some runes in certain event rooms. She'll be there studying them.
Yes. The next biome for this first world is the Lost Trenches. This is where they're greedy little goblin guys. They hunt and capture pilgrims from around the mountain.
Yeah.
And the goblins are mostly fucked up little dudes, some of which have bows and arrows.
Yeah.
So they'll attack from range. Just kind of the introduction of that. The little spiders before would hawk loogies at you, but they weren't turrets.
Yeah.
It was just their attack. Now we have melee characters with range characters covering them.
Range characters will stay in formation too. So they end up almost being like room level threats as opposed to just like dungeon level threats. They will chase you. They're not they're not entirely like planted, but they'll almost always shoot at you from a couple of different angles, complicating dodging while you are also dealing with the up close mob.
Yes. Yeah. As we go through here, Mark, the oldest son of John and Mary, arrives at the doorstep sick. The corruption is approaching his sanctuary. He is a monk.
Yes.
There. But we take him in. He is our son. We had to find an herbalist in the dungeon who can cure him. But unfortunately, the herbalist is gone. We find their ransacked caravan.
Yeah. But we get that, and we get a new character here. A character that I really wanted to like more than I did. The way his movement, the way his attack affected movement made him a little bit of a non-starter because he kind of breaks the kiting play.
This is the melee character I'm most successful with.
Yeah.
In the game, but it is weird. He's a kung fu guy. He does punches and kicks, and they home in on the nearest enemy. He'll do like a little dash towards them. There's a UI indication of which enemy is the one that he'll attack. This is a rare instance where I think it's too small.
Yeah, it took me a while to notice that. It felt unpredictable.
And then he has his special attack is this whip that comes out and grabs and stuns enemies, bringing them towards him and stuns them. Yeah. So they're right in his little combo zone. The thing I like about him is that as he attacks, he raises armor. His armor goes up.
Yeah.
And this is damage reduction. So he can be in the thick of it a little longer.
Yeah. This feels like it really harmonizes pretty well for me because all of his attacks will take you into the crowd. And I guess I never got around to trusting that it would make me durable enough to be in the thick of it. Yeah.
It's kind of, he kind of ends up playing as a junior version of Joey.
Yeah,
the big hammer guy.
Yeah, before
it plays kind of similar to that.
Before I settled on Apon, Joey was my guy. when I did melee stuff. So
he gets some more range for his dashes and more armor, and his rage ability just makes his punches better, which of course it does. Eventually you come across this camp of pilgrims that have been slaughtered by goblins, and you can pick up a playing ball from the corpse of a small girl.
This is your toy now, Lucy.
Yeah. Grandma keeps coming back with treats.
Yeah, this is just one of those souvenirs that you can find. I couldn't tell if that started a quest line. I think it's just a tragedy.
Yeah, it's sad. The venoms are bad.
Yeah.
The boss of this biome is the Goblin King and Queen.
Yeah.
This is a gargoyles, Dark Souls gargoyles fight. You fight one enemy with the same moveset, these swipes and charges, and then once that half bar is halfway done, you fight 2.
Yes.
Hers are a little bit different. She does these leaps instead of charging, and she has fire attached. But again, I think this is a good boss fight.
Yeah.
I like kiting them both.
It's nice managing them. Yeah. And it's a tried and true formula at this point, the gargoyle setup.
It's worth noting, people listening to this, unlike a lot of roguelikes, the boss of each of these biomes is not randomized.
Right.
And there's nothing to stop you from going back and doing a biome again. As far as I know, there's no in-game explanation as to why the Spider King respawns. Maybe there's just this really, really long line of succession. And eventually you're doing the minority whip of the, like the spider of agriculture ends up being the boss as you slowly whittle down from the top down.
The designated survivor.
Yeah.
That would be a snake. Shit. Yeah.
That would be a snake. It's okay. But the idea, I don't really like this. If you're grinding up your characters, like, I've read about this where, like, if you're playing this to get all your characters up, the meta is to fight the first couple bosses over and over.
Yeah.
Fight Spider King and Goblin King and Queen. I like these bosses a lot. I didn't want to do them over and over. I like with multiple characters.
I liked them in the way where I was like, oh, that was cool. I want to see the next one.
Yes. But there is a grindiness to this game, or a appeal to a grind mindset.
Yeah,
I think.
A grind set, if you will.
A grind set. Yeah, with these guys.
Something that I should have said back in the generalities, but related to the structure of the game, the fact that no matter what, after each area, you go back to home base and then start a new run, means that you are not disincentivized. Like, you are not totally screwed over if you leave it all in the field with a particular boss. Like, you can, win just by the skin of your teeth, and that is not a bad feeling because you're going to go back and, heal, like you're going to start a new run, as opposed to, okay, well, I guess I've got to roll into the next area at a complete disadvantage. Like, success against a boss is, you just kind of see gets a degree, as opposed to in other roguelikes where success is, I can beat this and then be in a good position to take on whatever comes after.
Yeah. That is an upside, I think.
Yeah.
The next thing is Anaidea's Dominion. Is the next set of this world. More tunnels. It's all going to be caves.
It's all
the way
tunnels,
down, basically. This time with spooky skeletons instead of goblins. And we get a little cutscene of Lucy, the character, starting to show her aptitude for fire magic.
Yeah.
She was raised by grandmother, not by her actual mother, because her mother was sick when she was born. So that is why she started learning magic.
Yeah.
She's setting herself on fire.
That's very cute. She's trying to cast a spell. And then John's just there throwing a pail of water on her.
It's really, I really like how this starts out. She comes along as a test run, as a co-op player, controlled by the AI, before you actually unlock her.
Yeah.
Really.
For me, she was not unlocked until after I beat this area. So I don't know if that's pinned. Were you able to unlock her right away, or is that pinned to beating the boss?
I don't remember when I got her.
Yeah.
So I just don't remember when she happened, because I went through and even I didn't want to grind, against those bosses, but I did go back to old areas with characters because I was trying to search for enough avatar strength to get me over certain walls.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense to talk about Lucy as a character now, since we got her introduction. It's just down at the bottom of that header. Yeah. She's our caster. And her range combat is differentiated from, her
Linda.
bigger sister, from Linda. I always want to call her Elaine. Maybe because the other son is named Kevin. I'm just thinking of like basic ass names.
Linda's a pretty basic ass name, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to call her something exotic like Linda. Or call her something basic like Elaine.
No. I mean, I guess I'm just saying I get the basic ass names confused with each other. Linda and
Joey.
So she cannot move when she's casting. And this is a little bit offset by the fact that, boy, she's powerful.
Very powerful, and her special attack complements her special attack and her stamina, or her special abilities complement this really well. So she shoots out a cyclone, this wind magic that will hit enemies and draw them in. It'll do damage, but mostly it'll just gather them all up into one spot, so you can hit them all with your fireballs.
Yeah.
This is her stamina is a mana bar.
Yeah.
For this. I love this character. This is my second favorite character after Linda. I had really great luck with Lucy.
Yeah.
I did not think that I would, because not being able to move and attack felt like a death knell. The tornado really makes up for it.
Yes. Yeah.
And eventually you can get other things that complement her playstyle. Like she gets a shield that will absorb a hit if she's undamaged for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
As kind of an oh shit button. And then eventually can drop decoys.
Yeah.
That will stop and draw all the enemies so she can shoot them. It's basically all about distracting enemies so she can hit them without having to move.
Yeah, she feels more coherently designed for solo play than Linda does as a range character.
Yeah. I like her quite a bit. Very powerful. And her rage, she turns into a fire elemental, like levitates off the ground and shoots lasers. It's real weird.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural talent.
Natural.
Yeah.
Let's talk about elite enemies, which are a patina of the game over the game.
Yes.
That kind of start up here.
So really no, outright designed encounters in this. It's an awful lot of just enemies and mix up determined by which biome you're in and which floor you're on. Elite enemies are stronger versions of the enemies. And when I say stronger, what I mean is way more durable. There are two different levels on them, yellow, and then around here is where red shows up. For a long time in the game, red ones are usually the ones that are summoned in by those summoning circles. And you do not want to let one get in because it will just be a fly in your ointment as you're trying to deal with the crush of the mob.
Yes. Yeah. These have different powers, similar to like an Isaac.
Yeah.
So they'll either summon extra enemies, they'll summon little damage spots on the ground, things like that.
Yeah.
And you usually get a big treasure pinata when you take them out. And they are an emergency. You have to heal. You have to deal with them.
Yes.
It's not optional.
They'll follow you around like everything.
Yes. Yeah. Once we eventually get to the end of this, Anaidaya's protector here is Nohar, who is a stone golem. That's here.
He's a big robot.
Big robot golem. Straight up from the Titan Souls collection.
Real Titan Souls energy.
Yeah. He has a shockwave stomp. You have to dodge through. He shoots spread shots. Again, a good boss. Not, super creative or anything, but fun.
Yeah.
Fun to learn these patterns.
He locks you in place for a while if you end up getting caught by that, by a stomp. Yeah.
Ends up being critical not to. Which means you have to keep an eye on your meter. Make sure you're saving a dodge.
Yeah.
After you complete him, we free Anaidaya from this crystal of corruption, and she comes to live in our basement.
Yep.
Like so much Fonzie.
Yeah.
And she's going to tell us that we get a little story cutscene after we get any of these spirits that tell us about this backstory about the family court of the gods. This truth of the corruption. There's a mountain god, who nobody knew existed. And he sapped the essence of the 3 spirits to create a being of corruption, despite the goddess Rayadena bringing this corruption to the land. So this is somebody got big mad.
Yes. Got big mad.
Decided to ruin everything.
And harness the power of these techno spirits. Like they're like literally like robot ghosts.
Yes. Yeah. He is a ghost that is also a robot. Chapter 2 is us trying to awaken Raha, who is the spirit of wind and weather, the second one.
And we are headed into the region of Berahut. which is kind of a desert Middle East kind of place. The first biome is the City of Thieves, which, going around in these.
There.
that was a pretty fun game book module, City of Thieves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nothing wrong with City of Thieves. The Bahar, there's like a lot of lore to these different areas. This area is like the cultural center of this world.
Yes.
But probably not the City of Thieves.
Right. I mean, maybe at once, but now, a lot of scorpions and snakes there, dude.
Yeah. It's the cultural center, for scorpions in tequila and wallets made of snakes. It is like a desert palace or a desert city kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are scorpions or snakes, and there are thieves, who either have these, kind of chunky spear attacks, but also some of them, teleport. So they kind of go into stealth mode and will appear behind you to attack.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have, that's a nice wrinkle on just 1,000 dudes walking towards you.
Yeah. And kind of to fill the mindless humanoid kind of angle, in addition to the venoms that you find, you got mummies, then you have a variant on those fire mummies that have like a limited casting ability.
Yes. The environmental hazards in this area are turrets, either spear traps and these fire turrets that are kind of pattern based. They shoot in the cardinals. And the corruption enemies, the venoms, get the ability to create big walls of venom.
Dicks.
It's pretty obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's a hard counter to what you're trying to do in this game, which is create space and run away from enemies.
Yeah.
So you can fight them. So this is obnoxious and you can get trapped.
Well played. They're learning. So they are learning. Some goblins ran ahead.
Yep. It's like, hey guys. Yeah. I hope everybody listening to this knows who Venom is. Like when we say Venom, because we've been using the word Venom as an adjective and noun.
Okay.
A lot and verb in this episode. If people, I imagine Venom awareness has never been higher, but like, I don't know, maybe not.
Where it's like a monster made out of like a big dumb monster.
Goo.
Yeah, made of goo, like a protean goo that can take different
all-purpose
forms.
Video game goo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about just like slime, evil, the what's his head, Moreau in Resident Evil 8.
Oh yeah.
She brings up venom walls,
yeah,
just gunk.
It's these little purple guys going around. Yeah. And then there's they start to end up looking a little bit more humanoid. They eventually get clothing, culture, songs,
right songs,
folkways. Yeah,
they start voting. Vote purple no matter who.
Oh my gosh. The boss for this first area is the Thief King Azam. I was a little bit disappointed. This is super basic.
He's pretty basic. Yeah. Just kind of hit and runs you. He teleports around. Does these combo attacks. Yeah. It's kind of, it's saying these blasts of energy out at you as well. Nothing too special though.
Yeah. It just, to me, it's like he's most dangerous if you are at mid range to him, and that's always where he's going to teleport to. So, this was a little bit of a discouragement for ranged attack, but like I can run right up next to you and do range attacks. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His little teleport, his like dash thing that he does a lot of damage.
Yes.
So similar to the last boss, there's like one move that is very high priority to dodge. Other thing, like learning what you can soak and what you shouldn't soak.
Yes.
Is kind of part of this boss. So when we get back from the City of Thieves, unfortunately, a big corruption spirit has abducted Mary from her bed.
Uh-oh.
So we need to rescue her from the forest. This is a little interstitial forest level that happens. It's not, we don't go through our basement teleporter.
No, we just run out into the woods. We pick our character. And this large spirit of corruption has been formed by Ooh and is chasing you through the forest. So you need to like run down this long path. I was not really dealing with enemies so much as this because you're trying to outrun the advancing wall. And this is complicated by occasionally you will reach a point where a wall of energy stops you from proceeding. You need to kill the enemies there until they drop the gems that you need to power the obelisks to clear the dark energy wall.
Yeah, I kind of respect this as them trying to mix up the fight thousands of dudes in hallways.
Yeah,
energy. I wish there was a little bit more of this. Like a chase level is another way that you could, within this engine, do a different kind of adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This whole kind of chapter of like, okay, now just we're going to force you into this little area. I imagine if you wanted to go back and grind for it, you could. I never like noped out of it, but I like this as like a little disruption to the structure.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
When you get to the shrine at the end, we find Mary pregnant as hell and in a web of corruption, and we fight the boss Aziz.
Yes,
the 3-headed corruption beast.
Yeah. So he will move pretty slowly and he will shoot these beams at angles, fire like 2 or 3 of them out. Mostly this is a fight against his ads and the corruption traps that he drops. These corruption traps will accumulate, like he'll just keep dropping them and they will do damage. Similar to the way that you found the gems in those little arenas, you need to get the gems and then activate one of the obelisks to clear the corruption traps away. This also do a little bit of damage and open Aziz up for attacks.
Yes. Eventually, though, you can't just straight up win this.
Yeah.
Grandma shows up and fights the corruption, but she dies.
Yes.
In order to save Mary and her in utero baby.
Yes. So
and it's not this has consequences for the family.
Yeah.
We show the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
They sell it as a really big deal to lose this matriarch.
Yes. She was the keeper of the lore. She knew what this was when it came down. She had a direct line to the spirits. Kind of leaves a big hole. Prior to this, we had been getting some cutscenes about Uncle Ben's sending out a letter to his ex-wife. What?
His loose dick?
No.
He went and had a secret kid and he went away.
No.
I know that's not what happened, but whenever I think of a kid just showing up, like it does really feel like he was loose with the spum. Uncle Ben spreads the wealth.
Yeah. Never call
Johnny
it wealth.
Come Seed just across all of Morta.
Never call it wealth again.
Well, redistributing wealth is a great euphemism for coming.
Oh no. But John had to talk him into it. Apparently Sheila was this great warrior. Like, hey, we could really use her help. And he sent out a letter. She didn't arrive. I about said she didn't come. It's
we think fucking Uncle Ben's a generous lover.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so. He's drunk. He's got fucking whiskey dick left and right.
Yeah.
He's canonically a drunk.
But
he doesn't fight with us.
Yeah.
And he has a limp.
Well, yeah. But their son shows up. When she left, she was pregnant with him, with this big old baby Huey. God, Joey's good.
It'd be a big dopey fun guy.
Yeah.
Big gentle giant guy. It looks in his eyes and he has her eyes. You can tell that, he's family. And Ben is upset about his ex-wife, but forges a hammer.
Yes.
For Joey, so he can become one of the guardians.
Yeah.
There. Ben and John, Ben, brother and brothers, sat down and looked through Grandma Margaret's old notes and find a letter that says the only way to appease U would be to sacrifice Mary's child to him. She knew this and was keeping the secret from the family.
Yeah.
And they decided to keep the secret as well.
Yeah.
Like, Grandma was right to keep this a secret. We don't want to tell everybody this.
Mm-hmm.
But we could make all this go away right now if we just give up the baby.
Yeah. But they're, trying to find another way. Like, Grandma thought that there was a way for us to do it too. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been fighting our way through these spirits. So mission fighting stays unchanged.
Yeah. Now we have access to Joey, the himbo. Joey is our big tank character.
Mm-hmm.
He has a gigantic hammer that's very slow, but has a huge wedge-shaped AoE and does a lot of damage.
Yeah.
He does damage when he dodges as well.
Yeah.
He has the one dodge, but he does damage where he lands. And he has the highest health pool.
Yeah.
He is meant to take damage.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the thick of it, you get hurt, and the idea is you have enough health to where you will last until healing items show up.
Yeah.
Basically.
He's a little bit like the opposite of the monk, because as he takes damage, he deals more damage. So it's just, can you soak those hits and use that to end the fight sooner than otherwise would end?
Yes.
Yeah.
I generally like Joey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this worked pretty well. I really liked being durable.
Yes.
Because basically almost any other character, John's a little durable,
mm-hmm.
but this is the first time I felt, not not in danger.
Yeah.
Like I could really soak it up.
Yeah. This felt like the melee character that was best adapted to the kiting play to me, because that wedge attack that he does with the hammer doesn't just do a bunch of damage. It also gives you a little bit of knockback, so you can kind of shape a crowd as you're going around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also gets special attacks that deal with crowd control. And then his rage ability makes him do damage on contact. They know you're going to be rubbing shoulders with goblins and shit.
Yeah.
It's good to damage them when they're next to you.
Yeah.
So I ended up liking Joey quite a bit as a player.
Yep.
After we get a little mission to clear this other goblin king from an observatory, so a father and son can work there. There, and we get a little side quest to help the son mine materials to repair this telescope lens. We also free there's a side quest we find in the ziggurat in the second zone.
Yeah.
We also free the stone mender to make runes for us.
Yeah. So we can buy those runes to modify our attacks, and he'll show up. It's nice to have a different kind of incidents thrown in there. Like this little side quest that you do where like the son is mining materials, like you are doing a little escort. This is fine. Like I like the variety. When these show up, there's going to be more a little bit later. I also, I didn't put it in here. So you can respec. You can use, like a special weird egg, to do that. And
you're the egg.
Yeah. The eggs are back, baby.
You're the respec egg specifically.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't eaten an egg in a little bit.
Oh.
Wonder if I'll do that. I'll get new stats. What would you do, Cole, if you could respec?
I mean,
what would that mean for you as a podcaster and middle-aged American?
That ends up being real sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. That isn't personal.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Like respecs in real life.
Yeah. Eventually nanosurgery will get us there.
Click.
But this is a special event. You will find like a little portal and you go in and you have to chase down this weird bird with a human face.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got one of those.
Just a nightmare creature.
Something that I wish was true in this game is I wish, I understand runes being this like temporary power up. Because of that, there's that lack of slot machine feeling that we talked about earlier. There's also a lack of becoming a power Katamari.
Yeah.
It's because you're resetting after every boss in the story mode. It was very rare that I like collected a large collection of cool things that work together. Happened sometimes, but it didn't happen as much as I wanted. I do not really feel like runes would be overpowered if they just lasted for the run.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me. It bothered me a little bit that they ran out. Like I would get triple shot or what have you on Linda, and it was really cool. Or poison shot, but it would only basically last for a floor.
Yeah.
A little bit more, but yeah, I found that disappointing.
Yeah. Same.
Once we get to the boss here, the boss is the guardian of Anairaha, the Scorpion King, which is this cloaked figure. He's got a scorpion tail, summons scorpions, and kind of warps around swiping at you. With his scorpion tail.
Pretty basic. This biome is not really hitting high for bosses on me. Like the forest was fine, but this guy was just a little simple.
They're fun to fight for me without being that impressive from a design standpoint. Like and how I'm defining fun to fight with these guys is that I felt like if I executed it well, I could not take damage.
Yes.
You could dodge everything. I could learn the patterns, a minor amount of like Artorias appeal.
It does appeal there.
Yeah. Even when they're kind of simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we free the spirit, that was being held by the Scorpion King. And the spirit, Anairaha, shows us that, hey, so this has been a cycle, sacrificing the child. It would buy you a few centuries of peace at most. So you would just be kicking the can down the road.
Afterwards, Linda runs up and says, hey, Mary's really deteriorating. Mark can cure her with herbs, but even the trees of Bahara have been corrupted. So we can't cure Pregwife. Lucy spots a dragon approaching, which is strange because dragons are extinct. And this is a woman from the north named Apan who came to teach us how to fight the corruption. This is the character added.
Yeah.
There and integrated in. And this is introduced us to our last character.
Yes. Just kind of this shaman person. She uses a spear that kind of handles like a faster version of Joe's hammer, with this real emphasis on pushing enemies back. She's a co-op character, but I did pretty well with her because she's a real good like mid-range attacker.
I struggled using this lady.
Yeah.
I think by this point I was just kind of, I was a little over it.
Mm-hmm.
Little eyes on the prize. And at this point, the kind of elegant touch of making you want to switch characters, through those family perks and through corruption became annoying to me.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to play the game with the character I liked.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways I appreciate that they add this variety, and I imagine this character is really cool for co-op.
Yeah, because she drops glyphs. This is useful for yourself because like you can drop a slowing glyph that'll stop enemies from closing the distance when they come in, and just set them up for your thunderclap attack there, which is pretty good. And your upgrades are around kind of like customizing those glyphs themselves, which is neat.
Yeah. She ends up having a relationship with Mark because they are both monks.
Yes.
She is just a more advanced form of Mark, of an advanced form of Mark. This is what Mark digivolves into. She's an advanced form of monk. And there's a couple little like relationship things that happen with the characters. Really interestingly, there's cut content that is Joey falling for Linda, his cousin.
Oh,
so there's still some stuff that, is in the game about that. There's a couple little cutscenes that suggest it, but he used to go further.
Yeah.
In terms of cousin love, which I have no real strong opinion about. I taught very early that's bad, but also, I don't know.
Yeah.
Second cousins and stuff. I don't know.
This is a fantasy world. It's really hard for me to get invested.
Yeah. I don't care that much, but yeah. So there used to be some cousin love if you're looking for browsing those tags. Steam. Yeah.
On Steam. No. Man, there's a lot of hentai games on Steam now. Shit.
It's all hentai.
Yeah.
Every single time. And then because we've done one or two hentai things for Abject Suffering, now Steam is constantly like, hey Gary, got something new for you. Fuck, man. Players like you like this.
No.
The fuck you say? No, they don't. First of all, there are no players like me. Second of all, they don't.
He said that?
Yeah, fuck him. He'll kill you, but he's not gonna kill me. It's really maddening and gross. Like I follow the Twitter thing that's like the 6-second preview, and it'll just be like, pussy choice too.
It's a Sudoku game, but all of the little diagrams end up being vulvas.
Yeah, it's just matching getting the 9 vulvas in order without being able to repeat any of them. Sudoku. I can tell you. I hate hentai.
Anyway, but yeah, that's a pawn. I could see her being really good for co-op. Ended up having some fun with her as kind of like a late edition utility player.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool idea to have a co-op only character.
Yeah,
or a co-op focused character, and it's a cool idea to have a co-op focused character that can be played single player. Like as much as I've gone super deep on Gungeon, I've never played as the cultist, who is the co-op only character who has a unique ending and has some unique effects, things like that. Unlocks.
But the kind of the area we're going to is called the Ruins of Old Barra Hut, which is like it's a section of the city that is just completely overgrown and corrupted. All this dead vegetation, just the life has been blasted from this place. And disappointingly, like not that much in the way of new enemies or hazards that I found. Just they just crank up the okay, we're going to throw you the advanced versions of these enemies. Yeah.
Not a whole lot. The Zone 3 feels at least pretty different aesthetically.
Yes.
You get a cutscene here of the corruption arriving at the front door of the Bergsons house, so it's encroaching right up to you. And we can find the Stargazer, the person we found the kid for, that we did that quest, we can find his remains.
Yeah.
After this, the Stargazer comes to seek refuge at your house to continue his research. So he's not a playable character. He doesn't unlock a bonus or anything. He's just part of the family now.
He's just there. Yeah. He's our astronomer.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah.
The boss of this is the Prosperity Tree, Dead Boise.
I don't know where the studio is from. And I mean, like,
no, I know. Dead Boise is a really,
Yeah.
Boys.
Dead Boys. I really don't know. Does this sound cool? Does this sound good? I see Dead Boys. I'm like, oh, the town? Like it's dead now?
Or like a gang, like the Dead Boys.
Yeah.
But just spelled in a very online way.
Yeah. Huh. It's not a name that I would give to a tree that'll walk up to you and punch you. I would call that the Pokemon Sudowoodo.
Yeah, Sudowoodo. Yeah. I mean, there's a name for that. It's Sudowoodo.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite Pokemon.
This I like this guy though.
Yeah.
He wanders around his swipe attack, and he will. It's in his tree. Sometimes he'll plant himself in some of these roots, these little nodes that you'll have to clear.
Yeah.
Pretty decent boss. Out of these 3 boss fights, probably my favorite. Yeah. And after you beat it, it leaves behind a seed that'll cure Mary, which we do. We cure her, but the stress of this has caused her to go into labor.
Yeah.
And the corruption altar outside her house kind of opens up because it wants that baby.
Ding, ding. Order up.
John grabs the baby, walks out of the front door, and we know that he's not just going to give the baby away.
It's real grim because everybody's trying to stop him. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's just like, and he's taunting him. Like he's just bringing there and just be like, nope, we're not going to give you the baby.
Yeah. And the family stands firm in their resolve that this unjust cycle must end. So they rebuke him from the front door. It's just very funny. Or he's like, what the fuck are you doing, John?
Yeah, it feels like a real risky move. Because what if this thing has a little like venom tentacle that just grabs the baby?
Have you seen how many venom tentacles are in play?
Yeah, you don't get this baby anywhere near the corruption. You don't need to taunt it. He decides, this has to end. He's going to fight, and we need to get more knowledge.
Yes.
We have to find out more about U to defeat U. And to do that, we have to rescue the 3rd spirit, Anai Sarava, the spirit of dreams.
Yeah, by heading into this region, Terra Lava, which is it's the future zone.
Yes. Very hyperlight drifter.
Very.
Yeah. Like just that kind of connection of old technology and old architecture, or like new technology and old architecture.
Yeah. But they've got their own corruption going on. And the like basic corruption enemy now, they're full on wizards. They'll do like direct damage spells to you. They'll like put down like corruption traps, like you saw in that in the previous in that boss fight in the forest, stuff like that. End up being real problems, high priority targets.
Yeah, and lots of little robots. They're fighting little quadruped, technologies guys.
Yeah.
And little bipedal robots that just walk up to you because there's really got to be an enemy that just wants to walk up and give you a hug.
Yeah.
The environmental hazards in the zone are ground pounders, which push you away, and missile launchers that have will chase you with a targeting reticule. I was a big fan of the on-screen reticule.
Oh yeah, ever since because it's just a big Battletoads fan. This ends up being pretty cool because you can kind of like guide the reticle into a crowd of enemies and get out of the way when it stops, and the missile will drop on them. Ends up being a good boss tactic later.
I always like traps that are equal opportunity for the player and the enemy.
Generally, that's like the case for a lot of these.
It's a case for half of them.
Yeah.
Like I feel like every biome has one trap that will work on everybody and one trap that'll just work on you. Or at least even if it won't work, like the push traps are not that, it's not that tactically sound to get an enemy trapped in that.
Yeah.
It's not that cool. But there's usually something that will work on enemies.
Yeah.
The boss of the zone is called Babylon. This is this geometric machine that floats around, keeps a shield around, and does the target reticule thing, where it chases you around. You want to use this against it.
Yeah. You do not want to be anywhere near it when it moves because the oversplash from its jets will kind of create a big AoE around it. So when it decides to move, the entire arena becomes much more dangerous to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you beat this guy, the corruption takes over the house. Who's knocking?
Yep. And
knock, knock. Who's there?
Venom.
Corruption. Yeah, Venom. Ooh.
Venom.
Oh no, I can't do Tom Hardy in that movie. Like whatever the fuck he's doing is like absolutely,
it's real,
like nothing else that anyone's ever done. It's weird choice.
He talks like somebody who constantly has a head cold, who was born and has never moved from the exact from the point that is equidistant between Bronx and Queens.
Yes,
he's just over the Hudson River.
It's also like a guy who doesn't know how big and tough he is.
Please, the East River.
It's like if Woody Allen's brain got stuck in Tom Hardy a little bit, but without all the bad implications. Like he's just this little nervy fella.
Just real kind of snivelly. Yeah. Sorry, I said Hudson River when I meant East River. Yeah.
Have you watched Venom 2 yet, with the scene where he kicks Venom out and he goes downstairs and Venom throws all his furniture and stuff out on the street?
No, I haven't. It's weirdly not showing up as available for rental, or at least it wasn't back when I started my Marvel watch. I would like to see it.
It's incredible. It's like 80 minutes long. It's so fucking breezy and dumb. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I love those movies so much. The Venomverse is so good. So silly.
Yeah. So this area 30, there are only 2 stages in this biome, but they make up for that by these being longer. They've got more floors to them. Yes. But we've kind of seen all the enemies that we're going to see here. This is where I unlocked the Black Marketeer. And there's some cool side quests, at least 2 of them. There's the little robot girl that you can rescue. Like there are some bullies. There's some like Chrono Trigger style robo-bullying going on, robo-bullying. And like a little bit later, you find her like mourning her dead creator in his lab. So you take her back and adopt her as a pet. Yeah. Yeah. There's a man who we run into as well, with this sick girl that's on life support. We have to rescue him while he's getting this power core for this and then escort him back. He installs the power core as her artificial heart and she dies horribly. I mean, it's one of the most upsetting, violent things I've seen in a game in a while. Like, it's
real weird that he thought this would work.
Yeah. And they like, there's no cutaway, but like she like wrenches violently and a geyser of blood like shoots out of her mouth, and then she just goes limp in a contorted like exorcism of Emily Rose position. And it's a little girl.
Yeah, little kid. This is too abstracted for me to have any feelings about that. Like my mirror neurons are not activated by the violence in this because it's 10 pixels.
It was less that I was affected and like sad with it. It was more just like the audacity of it kind of made me laugh because the thing that I saw was so conceptually horrible.
It is really weirdly kind of extra grim.
Yeah.
Because this game ultimately, like, bad things happen, grandma dies, there's, a near fatal baby sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it's also ultimately a game that is so hope-pilled.
Yeah.
Like it is really an extremely heartened game.
Yeah.
Whether the individual player is heartened by it is up to everyone's interpretation, but it is about, working hard as a family and overcoming.
Yeah, it's about togetherness.
Like the message for this is very positive.
Yeah.
The end boss of this is boss 0030.
And this is the room fight boss. It's like a Contra thing. The actual boss, the thing that takes damage, is this node that's at the very north side of the room, but it's shielded most of the time. It will summon adds to attack you and also raise these missile pillars to attack, which you have to deal with until it lowers its shield and starts spraying laser attacks at you, just doing these big sweeps. And that is when it is vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to attack it when its shield's down. Once we do this and we free that spirit, the spirit says like, hey, this might be the final cycle. And we get the backstory, which like it's reading it out loud for this makes this sound silly as hell.
I mean, it involves divorce.
It is. Well, even before that, I was thinking like, ooh, is an alien.
Yes.
That came out of fucking nowhere. Like the gods of this world came in a space pyramid. And landed. This alien just decided he was the mountain god. After he landed, because he's a powerful alien.
Yeah.
Like, there's no divinity to this. The theology of this game is really confusing.
Yeah. So Ooh is this space guy who comes and declares himself the god of the mountain, which is also his ship. Like
Yes.
that's Mount Morta is his pyramid spaceship that descended. He falls in love with Rhea, the spirit of the earth, specifically Rhea Dana, her daughter, which has a corporeal form.
Yes.
You know,
The Jesus.
Yeah.
They joined, and he was very good to the creatures until she had a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And U resented the daughter for taking his wife's attention.
Yeah. A thing that happens.
A thing that totally happens. The same thing I'm rereading or finally making a full run at the Immortal Hulk. And that's a big thing with the Hulk's dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Hulk's dad turned into a monster.
Yeah.
He was being an asshole, so she left him. And his rage and hatred at being jilted is what caused all the venoming, all the corruption.
Yeah.
He wants to get revenge on her domain because she rejected him.
Yeah.
Big incel, and it's a real vertical horizon. He's everything you want. He's everything you need. He's everything inside of you that you can never see.
You're a god and I'm a god, and
it couldn't be any more obvious. Yeah. This, I think, I like this message of the god. I'm always kind of in the pocket for God just being petty shitheads.
Yes. Yeah.
And that causing problems. I do not like that this ends with her just being like, it's all right.
Yeah, because he got the poison out. Like, oh yeah, you definitely like ordered all the sacrifices of the babies of those guardians that I have.
Grandma
here.
died.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool. I think that there's not enough justice in this, and with how hope-pilled the game is, again, I think that it makes sense.
He can't keep getting away with it.
They're not going to, end the cycle of violence with punishment.
Yeah.
In this, at the same time, it ends up feeling like a really easy forgiveness.
Yeah.
To me,
pretty pat.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. We have this little end game bit.
Yes.
First.
Yeah. So the three spirits, they activate the sanctuary crystal, which take us to the boss arena, right at the top of the mountain. And U appears in his humanoid form, kind of like a large, almost like leonine kind of figure, shrouded in this corruption. And you choose the family member that you're going to play as, and the others like walk up alongside the arena and like shine their life gems at the panels. I don't know what they're doing besides just kind of, ambient light. No clue, but they're just there. And you do the whole first part of the fight against U yourself.
Yes. He kind of teleports around. He shoots blast of these projectiles in chaotic patterns, eventually summoning dudes and putting out those these slow-moving crystals that kind of circle around him as options. When he nearly dies, he casts you into darkness, into a dark realm. And he's protected by a circle of the spirit. You have to follow this around to the other family members to revive them.
Yeah.
So they can all join you in killing you together, the whole family at once.
It's basically just a cutscene.
It is basically, but it feels like it follows the game to me.
Oh yeah,
like this feels like the only way this could have ended.
Oh yeah, no, it's incredibly satisfying. It's just, it is funny that it is a fight that you can control when everybody's just wailing on this guy.
It made me, in a ludonarrative way, I was like, why didn't they do this every time?
Oh, that would be so effective.
Yeah, they could have just all went and put all their, leave somebody to watch grandma and then put everybody else on the case. Instead of spending all that time reading and tending her plants, practicing the violin. Like, there's a mountain god who's a real angry, big mad divorced dad, and he is going to kill everybody.
Yeah.
All hands on deck, Bergsons.
Yeah, but you stomp him. And we get into the ending here. The corruption slips off of U. Like the corruption has been defeated, but leaving the host there, and he's alone. And that's kind of the thing that he was always afraid of, right? After Rhea Dana left, and then we see this door open up, and Rhea Dana approaches, walks out, and casts the last of the corruption out of them, and they fly up into the cosmos and explode. Yeah,
she forgives them, and they become a star.
Yes.
In the sky. I do not know why she forgives him. She does get rid of the corruption, but the corruption is supposed to be his hatred and anger of her. And like you said it earlier, like he just gets it out.
Yeah.
Like, let the baby have his bottle, but the baby's bottle is the health of the land and many lives.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't quite pass the sniff test for me in terms of, being forgiven.
Yeah. But we're just left, a family left exhausted, was now more complete than before. It had brought all these far-flung members of the family back together, even though they had lost the grandma. They can now, continue living together, and we get these quaint scenes of daily life.
Common cause. And we get this little narration at the end. This was not a tale of heroes and villains or of good and evil, but family, above all else, a tale of love. I understand what they're trying to do by making the gods reflect that as well.
Yeah.
We just didn't get to know them well enough to me.
Yeah. The easiness of of Rhea Dana taken back kind of undercuts that just a little bit, but with the family, it's absolutely there. I do. It's very sweet. It's not something I've seen a game do very well before. And in this particular kind of way. And I'm not here for the mechanics on this. Like the roguelike side of it and the Diablo crowd kiting kind of thing, both don't necessarily work that well for me. But aesthetically and, from a story and, theme and, play kind of angle, that all lines up pretty well for me. I'm happy something like this exists, and I can see the appeal for somebody who might be a little bit closer to the center of the Venn diagram on that.
Yeah, I think two things I was thinking of after I beat this. One is I think it earns its hope.
Yep.
Its hopefulness, which is pretty rare. I get really annoyed by games that are tender core and are like, wouldn't it be nice if everything was good?
Yeah.
As kind of a starting place or an ending place. I think that's limp. I think that this game does it better than most. It's not the kind of thing that ends up feeling incredibly resonant to me, probably just because of my own fucked up relationships and family, but it is the kind of thing I appreciate.
Yeah.
And this shows its work with that. I think that's great. The other thing I was thinking is that this game, if I was more given to this game would be a thing where, and I'm not projecting this onto anyone else, other people had different experiences with it, but where this could really boil away the feeling of play, or the feeling of, boil away the things that are annoying, and my memory would just be thinking of this good time I had with this sweet family.
Yeah.
It's how like a lot of people look back on all kinds of games from their childhood. I have a hard time doing that. And part of the show is going back to those things and evaluating them with clear modern eyes. This game would lend itself really well to that for me. If I were like, I know other people who play it are just like, the play is just very compelling. Like it's just very fun in the hands. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was okay in the hands. But very rarely, like for a roguelike, I was being led along by the narrative.
Yes.
Which is rare, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't happy to put it behind me.
Oh yeah.
When it was over, like I'm not going to go back to this. I don't, it wasn't that fun to play for me, purely as a function of genre.
Yeah. But
did you say, but it sounded like you're going to say something in the next.
No. Yeah. I said, it was more just an implied, I'm not going to, I liked it, but I'm not going to go back to it. But yeah.
Thank you, Julia. We appreciate you so much. If you want to suggest a game, or rather sponsor a game, or just get some bonus episodes of this show and many other shows, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
There you get those bonuses. You can, if you have thoughts about Children of Morta, Castlevania 2, or Control, the deadline is a little bit sooner this month because Gary's moving. I'm
moving, baby. if you're keeping track, we've been doing the show for 11 years, and it's probably the 11th time I've moved.
Yeah.
So, it's a hell.
I would die. I would die if I moved as much as you did, but the how it is that this will be a little bit more permanent. The deadline is the 12th for this month on those.
Yes. You can also leave us ratings, reviews on Apple Podcasts or Podcast Addict. That's really appreciated. As mentioned in the dispatch last episode, we're going to try to put some attention on some people who are not just straight white dudes like ourselves. This episode, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to a musical project from Mateus Silva from Brazil. This is a band called Tio and the Cosmic Neighborhood. They do these kind of bossa nova lo-fi video game songs that are really infectious, paired with these animations that are, it's not quite a music video. It's these like looping, very charming animations.
Yeah. It's like a little visualizer kind of thing. Yeah.
It's real cool.
Yeah.
The songs are cool. It's not a genre that you get a lot for me. Like bossa nova actually kind of rocks. Like that's kind of real good, even though I don't really listen to it. To me, that is a setting on a Casio.
Yes.
Keyboard, because I was born in America, but hearing fully produced music that is taken as an influence, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Real good stuff. So check them out. That is Tio and the Cosmic Neighborhood. If you are a non-straight white dude and you want us to give a shout out and draw some attention to your project, give me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This is a new thing to the format, so I don't know how to segue away from it. Sounds
we can't. It's just end segment.
End segment. Yes.
The new segment begin.
New segment begin. We didn't say it. If you're going to write in, go to duckfeed.tv/contact, click the WAF button and write in about, if you're going to write about multiple games, please write multiple responses. There we go.
Yes, there we go. There's this. I'll save that for the end of each of the. We also don't have a name for that segment. We'll have to come up with something good. All of the names I have for it are things I like. Sound like I'm stealing them from Thought Slime, who is where I stole the idea from.
Yeah.
So like Solidarity Corner and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't need a name. We're just we're gonna try to draw some attention.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah, thank you.
And until next time, what can they watch out for?
Until next time, watch out for each other.